So greetings to all. Myself Pratik Bol, a student of International Relation and Strategic Study, University of Mumbai, and a research fellow in Foresight, a Green Labs initiative.
Hmm,
As a part of
hmm.
this fellowship program, we have today our esteemed honored guest, Ms. Huma Siddiqui. She is an Indian journalist of over 30 years of experiences. She specializes in covering defense, space, foreign policy, and Ministry of External Affairs. She began her career with the Financial Express in the year 1993 and also shifted to its online edition in 2018. She graduated from the Miranda House and also has a postgraduate degree from the University of Delhi. She has enormously contributed in the think tanks like Observer Research Foundation (ORF). She has also been exist in defense, submarine maintenance, and bilateral defense partnership stories. Also, for an example, she has an article written in India Brazil Submarine MRO Memorandum of Understanding. She has also written about India's space diplomacy, trade diplomacy, and economic diplomacy, being one of the early women in the defense reporting field in India, which is noteworthy. So now I would like to ask ma'am, can you define defense diplomacy for our listener and explain how it differs from traditional diplomacy to our military cooperation?
So basically, defense diplomacy's biggest role is to maintain stability, and it is not about fighting wars. That's the main thing. So when we say defense diplomacy, it means that we are using the military tools like dialogues, joint exercises, trainings, port visits, which the Indian Navy does very often, to build trust and to prevent conflict. That's the main idea when we talk about defense diplomacy. Okay, and it's unlike the traditional diplomacy, and it is carried out by defense institutions like, let's say, war college, staff college, and it is carried out by the defense institutions, like when the officers from other countries come over for training, or they're around here for joint exercises. Like right now we are having an exercise with the French Air Force. Okay, Indian Air Force is there in Paris, and it's having air exercise. Recently we concluded an exercise with the US. Next year we are going to have the International Fleet Review of the Indian Navy, where the navies of almost 50 plus countries are going to participate. So these come under the category of defense diplomacy, which means I'm building my relations with you. I'm not there to have a war with you. It's more like having trying to teach you things which will only help you in maintaining peace and not war. That's what, I mean, according to me, that's what defense diplomacy means. It's basically pure military cooperation and peace. That's what it is.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It is a great insight from us. No, the second question is goes
And
that
never confuse it with, when I say defense cooperation, which we call as defense diplomacy or we call cooperation. It's all about having all these interactions at the institutional level.
yes, ma'am.
Like when you're having the joint exercises, you're having joint exercises with the, all the three services, or maybe with the Coast Guard as well. So at the end of the day, it is part of diplomacy. They're coming to my home to learn things from us. They will go back and they will, share the knowledge with their people back home, and that's what it is all about.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
you're welcome.
Ma'am, secondly, the thing is currently I've seen that US deployed MQ-9A Reaper drone to Philippines to support maritime security to tackle China. In contemporary
Hmm,
times, Philippines is facing clashes in the South China Sea with China.
hmm,
How could
hmm,
India engaged or
hmm,
interfere diplomatically, or does it have any
hmm.
relevance at the Act East policy, especially from a military perspective?
See, India has always been a peaceful nation. Okay, number one, we don't go into wars randomly just because, I don't like you. I'll come randomly with my tanks and attack you tomorrow and firing missiles. That's not what India does ever. As far as India is concerned, and as far as the Philippines is concerned, South China Sea is concerned, it's all part of the ASEAN region, correct? And India is, a part of it. And India has always maintained that it will, it maintains diplomatic relations with all the ASEAN members, which includes the Philippines, Philippines, Vietnam, and many other countries. And so India has been pushing for UNCLOS, which is UNCLOS based rules, which means that there will be joint exercises, and we will also offer capacity building, and all these things align directly with the Act East policy of the government. We always had an we didn't have it was Look East.
Yes, ma'am.
Then it became Act East, which means that I want to be very close to my extended neighborhood. After all, it is an extended neighborhood, and it also includes that India will have a stronger presence in the Indo-Pacific region.
Yes, ma'am.
So when I say Indo-Pacific region, and when I say the Philippines, if you see, India has concluded a BrahMos missile deal, okay, with the Philippines. Why? We want to have a silent role. We're not going to have wars, but I will maintain my relationship, which is part of ACT's policy, which is part of my diplomatic relations with ASEAN, which is I'm not going to have a war there just because China is sitting in South China Sea. I'm not going to do that. But then I'm definitely going to try help provide the tools that can be used as and when the country concerned wants to use it. And BrahMos missile is one of them. In fact, the Philippines is going to sign uh, another agreement for more BrahMos missiles.
Yes, ma'am.
And since we believe in rule based, a policy, so we want everything to be done by rule, not just because today morning I decide I should go and fire missiles at the Chinese ports. That cannot happen. And that should not happen, because whatever happens in my immediate region, which is the extended region, it will have an indirect or direct impact on India as well. So
Yes, ma'am.
I hope it answers your question.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yeah.
it definitely answers. Thirdly, as we've seen that Indonesia
If you
often.
have any doubts, no, if you have any doubts, you can note it down on the side and we can revisit it.
Sure,
No,
ma'am. Sure.
just in case if you have a doubt. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Sure. The third question that goes like Indonesia often prioritizes itself as a non-claimant in the South China Sea dispute, yet it have exclusive
Hmm.
economic zone overlaps with China's nine-dash line, as well as it has also passed domestic
Hmm.
legislation within detain coast guards from enter. How effectively is Indonesia balancing is
Hmm.
its economic relationship with China against the territorial sovereignty concerns?
Okay, so when it comes to Indonesia, see, one thing, some of these countries, though they have problems in the South China Sea due to the presence of the Chinese boats and the Chinese, presence, there will always be skirmishes around. But then Indonesia, as a ASEAN country, as a country of the region, wants to keep its economic cooperation smooth. It doesn't want it to be hampered in any way while quietly hardening its maritime presence. So it is gradually building its presence in the region, maritime, and protecting its economic interests, yet sending a signal that it is ready in case there is a need to take action. Okay. And it doesn't want to really have an open confrontation with anyone. It doesn't believe in, I mean, like I said, nobody is in a position right now, post COVID, to go into open confrontation with anyone. And they all believe in rule based laws. So it is avoiding any conflict in that water, They don't want to have a war with China tomorrow morning. They also know that they're not that big with that they can take on China, and they, however, they are constantly reinforcing their presence by regular patrolling and legal claims around the Natuna Island.
Yes, ma'am.
So they're ready, but again, they have to take care of their own economic interests first and be present, just to send the signal that we send the message that don't take us like weak people. We are around and we are ready,
Yes,
and they are ready. Like they are constantly upgrading their military might, and they're constantly training, and they're constantly having exchanges with other countries as well, not only with India but other countries as well. And they do have military exercises from time to time, and especially the naval exercise they have with India. So yeah, think it can engage. It's probably saying it because of the American presence. Because don't forget, America has a base in the Philippines,
ma'am.
and so every country in the region feels pressured that they have to take an action against China. But the reality is that China is too big for them, and they might they might hit at the boats. Yes, why not? If they come in their water, if they cross that line, if they cross the international waters and enter if the Philippines water, then you think the Philippines won't react? Of course, they will react. And when they say we are ready for a war, then maybe they will probably hit back with the help of the Americans. After all,
Yes, ma'am.
it's their water, and they do have a support of the Americans. With the Americans' presence there, possibilities are anytime anything can happen, which is why when we talk about international policy, or when we talk about the geopolitical situation, right now nobody really wants to do it, but China continues to provoke. Maybe they continue to provoke because they want to because they feel that they can provoke and get the reaction of a war, or they hit back or whatever. It's China after all. So
Yes,
I
ma'am.
don't think the Philippines will do that, but then the Philippines has been saying it. Yes, in one of the conferences where I was sitting, they have said it, but
Okay, ma'am.
it's their country. They take a call, but then whatever happens will have an impact on the region.
Thank you, ma'am. It will enhance our knowledge a lot. Fourthly, the fourth question goes that what steps in the Indian Navy taking, perhaps in cooperation with partners like Vietnam and the Philippines, to ensure freedom of navigation and project its influence in the South China Sea, like the Indian Navy?
See, the Indian Navy is constantly on regular basis conducting military exercises with many countries like Vietnam, the Philippines. We recently had an exercise with Thailand. Thailand, or was it Malaysia? We had an exercise with the friendly nations we are always having, and with the ASEAN region we do have military naval exercise. And the idea is to signal our support for the freedom of navigation and to maintain a steady presence in the Indo-Pacific. That is the main idea, and which is why when we engage whether we are engaging in port calls or we are engaging in exercises, bilateral, trilateral, multilateral, the whole idea is to show them that we are here to support freedom of navigation, which brings your South China Sea as an indirect message. Hey, you know what? We all are together. So that is what we are doing. And also to maintain a steady presence in the Indo Pacific region. India plays a very important role in the region, and that's why our naval boats are around all the time in the region, especially in the region.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. The fifth question is that among countries like the Philippines, Indonesia, and Vietnam, how do their security priorities differ when it comes to China? Like all the three countries. Because in
Okay, see, the Philippines, as far as the Philippines is concerned, it's constantly seeking external defense support, okay, against direct pressure. And when we say direct pressure, like going back to your previous question, you said that the Philippines uh, recently said that they're ready for a war, or if need be, they will go for a war. So, and my response to that was, well, they have the support of the Americans because Americans are present there. So, as far as the Philippines is concerned, they are seeking external defense support against direct pressure. Vietnam prioritizes deterrence and self-reliance. Okay, it wants to be self reliant. It does not want to depend on any ex country to support whatever action, as and when required, it has to take. Because if you go back a few years, uh, Vietnam discovered some oil, some crude along the Vietnam water. Okay, and the Chinese claim that it's theirs, not the Vietnamese. And India was supposed to go and help in exploration, which of course never happened. But so basically, Vietnam prioritizes um, deterrence and self reliance. And as far as Indonesia is concerned, it is very, quietly focusing on defending its special economic zones while avoiding becoming a claimant to any part of South China Sea. So it's keeping itself away. And like I said previously, that it is focusing entirely on its economy. And that's its priority, which is fair enough. And they don't want to get into all these things. So
okay, okay, thank you. How significant is China growing influence in the South China Sea for India's maritime security and regional strategy?
how significant?
China,
Can you
yes, ma'am, sure. How significant is China's growing influence in the South China Sea for India's maritime security and regional strategy?
see? As far as China is concerned, it has been, uh, how to say this. As far as South China Sea, China has really been pushing its luck in that region, and the ASEAN countries are trying to do, there are internal divisions as far as China is concerned. How they individually want to deal with China, it's very obvious. We have our own resource limitations, therefore we cannot go for, okay, let's have another Galwan. That cannot happen. So we are very careful, and there are a lot of opportunities for India, to help these countries in training, in maritime security, joint exercises, and most importantly, exports, which, just to add to it, Indonesia and Vietnam are expected to sign a BrahMos deal late by the year end.
Yes, ma'am.
So that is a role that India can play in the region, like I said previously. Also, for us, we really cannot go into supporting any war-like situation anywhere. India will never send its troops on the ground, or even send its machinery on the ground to have a war with anyone and to be part of any conflict or any war. That has never been India's role. India has always maintained that there should not be any. I mean, we are not the first ones to start it.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to start it, and if required, we are not going to send our troops if that's what you want to know. We will never do that. We can export platforms of, military platforms if needed, or military materials in case required. But that's all India can do in the region, whether China is present there or not. But yeah, that's we have our own limitations, so we have to focus on that.
Okay, ma'am. Understood. As you can see that diplomatic and defense strategy should be India's priorities to navigate the complexities of the South China Sea dispute. So, what are those diplomatic and defense strategies should India take to curb the complexities?
Say that again.
What diplomatic and defense strategy should India prioritize to navigate the
Huh.
complexities of the South China Sea dispute?
Oh, okay. So basically, I mean, we are repeating the same things, but yeah, maybe, deepening or strengthening our relations with the ASEAN countries, maintaining a regular naval presence in the region, and constantly support rule-based maritime norms. That's what we need to do mostly. We need to be present in the region, which
Yes.
is why I said that we are sending our ships, and then diplomatically, India should push for multilateral solutions. That is very important,
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
and capacity building for smaller states like there's Cambodia, there's Laos, many other small states are there in the region. I mean, you cannot just throw them out and say, hey, get out, you're not part of this. But yeah, if we can silently be there, but sending our troops of any shape or kind, or sending our um, aircraft or any kind, no, we only need to build deeper relations, and that comes through capacity building, training, diplomatically having a conversation with them, trying to, because we believe this is not an era of war. That's what our prime minister said. So as Indians, you also must be learning this. We really don't believe in war. We have really not gone anywhere to have a war just because we think that it is the right thing. Because my economy does not depend on selling military platforms. My economy is different, unlike several Western countries and the European nations. So, yeah.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much. How do economic and infrastructure projects like China's Belt and Road Initiative, that is very much famous BRI, influence India's geopolitical strategy in the Indian Ocean region? So shifted from the South China Sea region to Indian Ocean region.
Okay, and that's important. Because that is China expanding its presence in the Indian Ocean, and it has prompted India to deepen its own connectivity and port access and security partnerships. That's because it's both a strategic challenge and a catalyst for India's outreach. So when you talk about BRI is into Indian Ocean, which means it's indirectly or directly in my face. There's this line in English. There's this English phrase: "You're standing in my face," literally. So they're right there at my doorstep. So what I need to do, I need to improve my own connectivity. I need to do that, and then need to have port access to wherever around, whether it is Sri Lanka or whether in the region, especially. And that's where the friendly navies come into play. When I said we need to have relations with the friendly navies, and we need to have an access to them for businesses or for my economic growth. That's what's required, because it is a huge challenge. China, there we cannot beat them, but at least we can make our own efforts.
Yes, ma'am. It is definitely a thoughtful insight.
You can't just go and have a war with China just because it's sitting there in South China Sea, or maybe it's sitting in the Indian Ocean, which it is constantly trawling. It is constantly trawling and constantly trying to get into a space which is not even theirs. But they, for some reason, they say, "Oh, we are doing some kind of a navigation. We are doing this," but they're out there reading the waters, reading the temperatures, so that as and when required, they can deploy their submarines or whatever, as and when the need be. They can, underwater drones they can set. So when you see them constantly moving, they're trawling around. And when I say trawling, not the TRO, but TRAW, trawl,
Yes,
trawling. And that trawling means that they're reading the temperature of the water, right, in the ocean. That gives them an idea on how deep or how far the submarines can go.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
100% right. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, if we next shift to the third last question, if we talk about China has recently been changing its top military commanders.
Hmm.
Is that good news or a bad news for India for in the viewpoint of strategy or strategic viewpoint?
It, it depends. What do you mean by good news, bad news? And it somehow it's if you talk to a real China expert, they will tell you it is a signal to internal problems
Yes, ma'am.
within China. But also, it could mean that they're getting new commanders who would have more assertive behavior. And for India, it is very important that it monitors these new commanders as and when they are, because silently, even though no one is really talking about it, but silently, a lot of changes are taking place in that country, and there is a lot of rumbling under the surface. So India needs to watch it carefully. And anyway, China is never to be trusted as far as I'm concerned. New commander, old commander, China is never to be trusted. So
Yes,
yeah.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. From your experience, what is the most misunderstood aspects of defense and security analysis in mainstream
Oh,
media?
I would love to answer this question.
Yes, ma'am.
See, like as a journalist, when you are working as like in any newspaper, I can't say anything about the television, but I can definitely talk about the print. As in when I say the print, I mean the newspaper. Uh, the editors or the people handling the stories on the desk, they imagine defense is all about wars. Okay. What they don't understand is for them it is only either war or it is about hardware. Okay, which is not true because it is when you say, oh, I'm doing defense, then one really needs to understand that it is all about strategy, signaling. It is all about economics, and it is all about diplomacy, which is why when I started my career back then,
Yes, ma'am.
I remember one of my bosses told me that how you doing defense reporting without covering foreign policy. And so I looked at him, what does that have to do with defense? He
Yes,
was
ma'am.
one of my smartest editors. So he said, you cannot write on defense without understanding the foreign policy. So, because all these things need, nuances. You cannot write that I am having, oh, you know what, I'm having a joint exercise with the French. So
Yes,
now I need to explain why am I having an exercise with the French or the American or the ASEAN, because for the person sitting on the desk or the person who's handling the copy, he'll say, "What rubbish is this? Who's going to read it?" You know,
yes,
and they'll usually dismiss it. And it's I'm not making any joke about it, but that's the reality. Most of the time, the bosses remove you from doing that particular beat because they say, "Oh, there is no war happening." Oh, there is no conflict happening. Why do we need somebody covering defense? And which is quite silly because, again, defense and foreign policy or diplomacy or whatever you may like to call it, it's all interconnected.
yes,
So it cannot be studied or written about in isolation. Like, even if you are doing what you are doing, you're talking about defense. Why are you talking about defense? You're talking about defense because somewhere even you are not covering war as in war. You're trying to understand the relations between, like you chose ASEAN region, fair enough. So if in ASEAN region, if you're imagining it is all hunky dory and no war, no nothing, But then you're talking about South China Sea, and South China Sea, China is present, sitting there constantly. And so you are going to sit and write about it, correct?
Yes.
It's not, again, is you're not going to write this ship took off from here, this submarine fired this. You're not going to write all that, but it's how it's going to impact the region.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Which a lot of publications, a lot of platforms don't really understand why defense reporting is important, and not in isolation. It has to be together with the foreign policy.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
you're welcome.
The last question of today is that what advice would you give to the young researcher, journalists, or students who want to pursue a career in strategic and defense studies?
First, I'll tell the students not to come into journalism. It's no fun. Okay. No, really. I mean, when I go or when I deliver lectures to people, I always tell them there is no need. I mean, it's no fun if you're imagining that you'll become very popular just because people will see you on the screen. No fun anymore. There used to be a time when you would say, "Hey, you know what? I'm calling from so and so publication." And the person on the other end would actually stand up in respect and fear. Now you say, "I'm so and so calling from so and so place." They'll say, "Who the hell cares about you?" That is the journalism aspect. But when it comes to people, students studying strategic affairs or wanting to write a paper on, on these topics, they really need to read up.
Yes, ma'am.
Without reading, without understanding, the more you read, the more you'll understand. And then I would say, just because you're writing on West Asia, it doesn't mean that you write you read only what Washington Post or New York Times is saying or the Economist is saying, because most of these reports are biased.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
when I say biased, you need to understand that, hey, you know what? I need to read other publications as well. Not necessarily everything Western is good. Just like, according to, if I were to go back into time, according to CNN, which is actually true in today's day and age, because you see all the cows on the road all the time here in Delhi, at least.
Yes, ma'am.
According to them, India is a land of snake charmers and cows, right?
Yes, ma'am.
We do see cows at every nook and corner, though of course we are not seeing the snake charmers anymore. But always mix your readings along with discussions with experts who, and then experts will also have their point of view. You need to gather all that and cull out what you agree with, what you understand. Just because I told you ASEAN is very important, maybe according to you it is not important, which is fair. And so you will have to argue why is it not important. Now, if you read only the Indian newspapers, ASEAN is very important. But if you read the newspapers in the ASEAN region, they don't care a damn for India.
Yes.
Or maybe they do. Same way the West Asia. They don't care about you, but we care about them. And we write all kinds of rubbish based on what we read in the Western media.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you ask me this question, just to conclude, I would say balance it out. Everything you read and everything you hear is not necessarily true. It could
Yes.
be biased, it could be, blown out of proportions, or it could be pure lie. At the end of the day, it could be a pure lie too. So, if you were a journalist and you want to become a journalist, you really need to be careful, because a lot of fake news, a lot of fake websites are out there, and you need to stay away from them and be careful. Yeah,
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as we come to close today's insightful conversation, I'd like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed guest, Ms. Huma Siddiqui, for joining us and sharing her deep expertise on defense diplomacy, regional security, and the evolving strategic landscape of the Indo-Pacific. Your perspective has truly enriched our understanding and offered clarity on issues that shape global peace and stability. I also wish to thank our audience for their time, curiosity, and engagement. Your presence and interest what make conversation like this meaningful and impactful. A special appreciation goes to our CEO, Mr. Saurabh Sinha, and our program director, Ms. Srishti Chauhan. Again, heartily thanks to everyone who working behind the scenes, our organizing team, our technical support team, and coordinators, whose efforts ensured that this session ran smoothly. Once again, thank you, Ms. Huma Siddiqui, for your valuable time and thoughtful insight. We hope to continue learning from your work and contribution in the future. Thank you all and have a wonderful day ahead. Until next, stay foresighted.